Welcome to TWT Talks with Tito. This is Tito Madrano back for another episode, back in your life. Today we're going to talk about post UFC 314. And let's talk about the main card. Kicking off the main card, it was Nikita Korolov versus Dominic Reyes in the light heavyweight division. This fight was interesting because I feel like Nikita was probably the favorite coming into this fight. Dominic Reyes was on a two-fight win streak coming into this fight. Nikita pretty much charged in, and Dominic Reyes capitalized with a counter and then finished him off. Dominic Reyes is in a position where we used to wonder if the guy was going to be in the UFC for a while. Because, if you look back at Dominic Reyes from 2020 to 2023, he was on a 4-0 losing streak. He lost to John Jones by decision. A lot of people thought he won that fight. Then after that, they did the whole vacant belt, which he lost to Jan Pavlovich. Got finished in that fight. Then he got finished by Yuri Prochazka, a former UFC light heavyweight champion. And then he lost to Ryan Spann. Got finished there. It looked bleak for Dominic Reyes in his career in the UFC. It looked bleak. But he turned it around, started picking up wins, and now he's on a 3-fight winning streak. And from 2024 to this year, he's been putting the foot on the gas, and he's looking great again. Dominic Reyes gets a big win. Who should he fight next? We don't know. I just like the fact that Dominic Reyes is winning fights, and because a lot of you casual fans or that don't really follow the sport, you guys are already writing him off because of his losses, and he turned that around. So that's great to see that Dominic Reyes is, in a position where he's probably now in a position where he's going to be fighting top 10 guys, which I believe Nikita was probably 8. So he's in a position where he's probably going to fight top 10 or top 5 now. Of course, one fight at a time. You don't want to rush things all the time because, rushing stuff never works. But this is a big win for him because I feel like he was the underdog in this fight and he proved a lot of people wrong. All right, moving on to the next fight. So this fight right here, there was a lot of tension in this fight. It was in the featherweight division. Bryce Mitchell versus Jen Silva. So we know that Bryce Mitchell, I think it was on his podcast or one of the podcast platforms, he said this. Probably was his podcast or probably was another. I'm not 100% sure. But he said something something very controversial, which rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He said that he is a believer of Hitler. And, that's not going to sit well with a lot of people. If there's a reason for you to be hated for something, well, that's a reason. And look, everybody's entitled to believe on what they want to believe. Not to make this about that, but I'm sure that he should be aware of who Hitler was. You know what I mean? But yeah, going into this fight, a lot of things were building up in the press conference and the weigh-ins. Jen Silva promised all of us. He said, I promised everyone that I'm going to finish this guy. Jen Silva is a freaking killer, man. I seen his highlights. I seen how he finishes people. This guy doesn't play around. He goes in there. He tries to take your soul, and whatever is left of it, he's going to brag about it. And the thing is with Jon Silva, he went in there with a purpose of, I'm here to destroy you. The first round, both guys were just, fighting each other out in stand-up. I'm surprised Bryce Mitchell, we know Bryce Mitchell's very dangerous on the ground. So Jon Silva was just avoiding that. Jen Silva just goes in there, and going into the second round, Jen Silva just, I feel like he was too focused on not finishing him right away. He wanted to just, he wanted to make him suffer for sure. But, Jen Silva was just like, not, I don't want to say he was concentrated in the fight, but he was just taunting him a lot. I'm like, dude, just fight. They're paying you to fight. And Jen Silva takes him down and chokes him out. And yeah, he chokes out Bryce Mitchell. I think this is the second loss Bryce Mitchell has by submission in his career. Yeah, this is definitely. I think this is the second loss he has because he did lose to Ilia Taboria, former UFC featherweight champion, and we saw how he got finished by Josh Emmett. That was a scary knockout. And this is another big loss for Bryce Mitchell. Jen Silva, after the fight, he just said to Bryce Mitchell, I hope, he finds his way and hopefully things are better for him. And, he was respectful. He's like, I hope, hope he finds his way with God. And he needs, like, he was saying that Bryce Mitchell needs help. And, yeah, what's next for Jen Silva? I want to see him fight the top 10 guys in the featherweight division. I want to see him get a big name after this performance. Definitely get a big name. And as far as for Bryce Mitchell, me personally, I don't have nothing against him. I don't know the guy to have something against him, let alone, I just think he needs to figure his stuff out and not say ridiculous things that he needs to not say ridiculous things that, and be aware of what he's saying. Because, yeah. And what's next for Bryce Mitchell? I don't know. Go back to the drawing board. It is a tough loss for him, but yeah. All right, moving on to the next fight and the featherweight division. Another featherweight fight. The featherweight division was very busy in this fight card. Yarit Rodriguez, former UFC interim featherweight champion, versus debuting in the UFC, former two-time division champion of Bellator, lightweight and featherweight division, Patricio Pitbull. So this fight, they say a lot about the UFC jitters, that it's not the same when you fight in the UFC, when you fight in a different organization. Patricio Pitbull, I was expecting more aggression from him. I was expecting him to, be on Yarit's face 24/7, I'm here, you're not going to go anywhere. He didn't do that. Patricio Pitbull was just frozen, like Elsa, haha. But yeah, he was just frozen. And Yarit Rodriguez was just picking him apart from the outside with kicks and punches. And Yarit, when you give him space, he's gonna capitalize in every angle and every level of it. He was picking him apart, and Yarit was just, he was making it his fight. We did see some success in the second round for Patricio, but it just wasn't enough. Yarit made it his fight. He made it his fight anywhere it went, the ground, the stand-up. Yarit was dominating this fight, and Yarit said, when Pitbull had him in the ground, Yarit's all like, I'm going to kick you, and you want to try something, you're going to get kicked. And Patricio was just not pulling the trigger. He was just not looking for, the finish. He was down the whole time, and Yarit Rodriguez just picked him apart and stand up, ground game, and won the fight by decision. Yarit Rodriguez believes that he deserves a title shot. I'm not going to put Yarit Rodriguez over Mosov. I think he deserves a title shot first. Yarit Rodriguez, I think if he gets one more win, probably you can make a case that he should get a crack for the belt. I know there is going to be a Mexico card in September, I believe. Mexican Independent, and Yarit wants to be a part of that, and I think he should. I mean, he's one of the most well-representative fighters from Mexico. Why not? But I don't think it should be for the belt. I'm sorry. It's just, I think one more win, and then maybe you can make a case for that, but I don't see Yarit fighting for the belt next. That's just my take on that. As far as Patricio Pitbull, look, here's the thing, though. All the fighters that they're signing from Bellator, we know that we're going to get in a conversation in a bit about him. Michael Chandler, which, by the way, Patricio Pitbull did beat in Bellator and won the lightweight division. I was there live. They just signed Aaron Pico, which that's big news right there. Michael Venom Page, he's 2-1 in the UFC now. A lot of these fighters, the first fight in the UFC is not gonna go their way, or it's rare if they get a big win, like when Chandler beat Dan Hooker. It's the UFC jitters. It's all a mental thing, and I feel like mentally, Patricio Pitbull, I think the UFC jitters were just taking over him in a bit, and it kind of played a factor in this fight. What's next for him? I mean, whatever's next for him, he needs to just focus on the fight. Now I'm on the UFC now. This is the big stage. This is that. Focus if you're fighting in front of 10 people, in front of 50 people, in front of like an audience, or in front of 1,000 people. It doesn't matter. Just focus on the fight. I don't know personally what was the game plan for them, but whatever it was, it didn't help him because Yair Rodriguez did what he wanted in this fight. And he made it his fight and he got the dub. But yeah, we'll see what's next for Patricio Pitbull. All right. I just talked about him in a little bit. Michael Chandler versus Paddy, the Baddie Pimblett. This is the lightweight. This was in the lightweight division. Michael Chandler, he's one of those guys, since being a part of the UFC, he has fought all the tough guys in the lightweight division, regardless if he won or not, which it sucks that he lost the majority of them, but he fought them. He fought the Gaethjes. He fought the Poiriers. Oliveira twice. Say what you want about Ferguson. He fought him too. Ferguson was the boogeyman at one point. He fought Dan Hooker, which was when he beat Dan Hooker was the top 5. He was in the top 5. So let's not take any credit away from that. The thing is with Michael Chandler, he keeps making the same mistakes. And let's talk a little bit about Paddy. Paddy, this is a fight where Paddy this was Paddy's come out party. Because there was a lot of I honestly believe, and this is not me not taking any knock on the guy. The guy is very talented, so they'll come at me. I honestly believe Paddy was not, he's been fighting guys that are on a losing streak or just are not in the top 15 or not going to are not in a position where we're going to talk about Paddy like Paddy's that dude. And I feel like Chandler was the guy to me, in my opinion, Chandler was the biggest test for Paddy. And Chandler, came red hot in the first round. He did what he had to do. And, he was just looking for the finish, but he didn't get it. Second round, Paddy turned it around. We saw that Paddy did a good job standing, which a lot of people didn't give him credit for. Paddy also did a pretty good job and not getting taken down, which a lot of people don't give Paddy enough credit. And I think he did a lot of good things, Paddy, in this fight, where Paddy's all like, you think I'm not good at that? You think I'm not good at that? Watch me. And he went check, 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 check the whole time against Michael Chandler. In the third round, we see that Paddy knees Michael Chandler in the face, and Michael Chandler is cut up. We see Michael Chandler wobbly. We see him he's gassing out. Paddy goes in for the kill, drops him, throws ground and pound. And for a moment, the referee, say what you want, did a pretty good job of giving Michael Chandler all the time in the world to try to recover. But Michael Chandler was not responding, and Paddy just kept hitting him and hitting him and hitting him, and they stopped the fight. This is a good win for Paddy. Who should he fight next? He was calling out Gaethje. He was calling out Oliveira. He was calling out, I think he called out Poirier too. Poirier, Arman Sarukian. He didn't call out Ilia Topuria, as you can tell. But he did call out all those guys out. Gaethje was on the audience. And look, good win for Paddy. But again, he's not going to get credit for this one either. Because I feel like all those guys that he called out, now it's the question mark. Can he beat those guys? And I personally believe him and Justin Gaethje is the fight they have to make next. I think him and Gaethje Gaethje is probably going to say, Gaethje's probably going to want the title shot next. I want to see Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. I want to see if Paddy Pimblett can take a punch from someone that hits hard like Justin Gaethje. It's one thing getting hit by Chandler. It's another thing getting hit by Justin Gaethje. And I want to see that fight. And I think Paddy did prove to all of us that you are... I always thought he was good, but I wanted to know if he was elite. I want to know if he was legit. And in this fight, he proved that he was legit. And if he beats Gaethje and he gets that fight and he finishes Gaethje, he's gonna prove that he's elite. But there's always gonna be he didn't this and that. So we can't make excuses for Paddy because why he beat those guys prior to Chandler. If you listen carefully, Paddy doesn't do the matchmaking. It's UFC. You can say UFC probably did a good job protecting him from the competition right now. But the reality is this. Paddy Pimblett needs to fight someone in the top 5. It's time. I think it's time. I think UFC gave him a good test against Michael Chandler, but I think it's time for Paddy Pimblett to test the waters with the Sharks, with the Wolves, with the Lions of that division, and it's time now. What's next for Michael Chandler? He's in a tough spot. 2-5 in the UFC. We know who Michael Chandler is in Bellator. I've seen Michael Chandler's career since Bellator. He ain't no scrub. Let me tell you this. Michael Chandler is not a scrub. He's been fighting world-class fighters all his life. Just because he didn't make it to the UFC at a certain point doesn't mean he's a former 3-time Bellator lightweight champion. Fought Eddie Alvarez, fought Patricio Pitbull, fought Will Brooks, fought a lot of good names. Benson Henderson too. Beat him twice. Fought a lot of Patricio Pitbull's brother, Patrici Pitbull. The guy has fought a lot of good competition. He has fought good competition. Maybe not, we can't compare it to the UFC, of course, but Benson Henderson, Eddie Alvarez, guys that he beat, they're former UFC champions. So you can't sit here and say that Chandler's not UFC worthy caliber, because he is. And Chandler, since being a part of the UFC, he has fought the top 5 guys from the get-go. You know what I mean? Dan Hooker was a top 5 guy when he fought him and he finished him. Charles Oliveira, top 5. Who else? Justin Gaethje, top 5. Dustin Poirier, top 5. Tony Ferguson, at one point, he was a former interim champion, 12-fight winning streak in the UFC lightweight division. Yes, when he beat him, but if you remember that fight, Ferguson was winning that first round until he got caught in the second round. Let's not forget that. Also, Chandler fought Oliveira the second time, and he almost had Oliveira on, he had him in trouble. He almost finished Oliveira. So we cannot forget those moments. You guys just want to remember the moments where he was losing, but remember the moments where he was winning that fight until he wasn't. But personally, what's next for Michael Chandler? I feel like Michael Chandler, if he loses his next fight, he should probably retire. I feel like Chandler, he's been battle tested all his career. He's been fighting the elite of the elite. UFC, Bellator, the guy, if he loses his next fight and if he gets finished, I think it's time to hang it up. I mean, I feel like Chandler, and I don't want to throw shade at him because he's a great fighter and he's a good guy too. I met him personally. He's a really good guy. I feel like he wasted so many time. I feel like he wasted valuable years of his career waiting for Conor McGregor. I'm going to say this over and over again. He waited valuable years waiting on Conor McGregor when he should have taken a fight that would put him on a position where he was going to be fighting for the belt again. But yeah, that's my take on that fight. Moving on to the main event. This was for the vacant UFC featherweight champion, the former featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski the Great, versus #1 contender and dangerous Diego Lopes. This fight came down to a lot of question marks. Is Alexander Volkanovski's chin the same? Does he have what it takes to go for another run? Does this, does that? The other question marks were, is Diego Sanchez the guy to be the next champion of this division? Can he be the next big star of this division? Well, the moment the fight started to the moment the fight ended, all those questions were answered. Round 1, Alexander Volkanovski, I noticed that he was very patient. He was very calculated with his punches. He wasn't he was fighting like he's been here before. And that's the thing that I noticed about him in this fight. Alexander Volkanovski knew what he got himself into, and he knew who the opponent was. I feel like this is the first time. Well, I don't want to say this is the first time, but I feel like I'm sure him and his coaches, they sit down, they watch tape, because I know some fighters don't. I don't know if he does, but I know some fighters don't. They don't watch tapes with their coaches about the fighter they're going to fight. I know Rampage was one of them. He would publicly say, I don't watch any of my opponents. I let my coaches take care of that. Some fighters don't. Some fighters would rather sit with their coaches and watch the fights with them and analyze their opponent. I feel like Alexander Volkanovski knew that Diego Lopez is a wild man. He comes in trying to finish you right away. And Diego Lopez, when he got touched by Alexander Volkanovski, he's like, okay, this is my toughest fight, and I have to figure out how I'm gonna make it my fight. Going into the second round, the same. Volkanovski was just being very calculated with his punches. He was being smart. He wasn't going like, he wasn't throwing air to the wind. He was in there saying, you know what, I'm here to fight for the belt. And that's exactly what he did. Diego Lopez, when they exchanged, Diego Lopez dropped Alexander Volkanovski, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is getting interesting. Diego Lopez goes in for the rush. Again, Alexander Volkanovski, something that very impressed me of him. His experience and his patience of being in a situation like this, he was not fazed by it. He got up, he kept trying to fight, and I feel like some judges probably gave Diego Lopez this round because he dropped him. I feel like Alexander Volkanovski, he buckled Diego Lopez a couple times, made him go back on the cage. I think Volkanovski won so far 2 rounds. Going into the third round, Volkanovski continued to do the same. He was just calculated with his punches. He was making Diego Lopez know that, this is the next level that you have to overcome. And Diego Lopez, props to him. Because I feel like in this round, the third round, when he dropped him in the second round, the third round, Diego Lopez's confidence has started to build up. Diego Lopez's confidence is like, you know what? I belong here. I believe I belong here. And I'm sure Diego Lopez is like, I can do this. Because, we know Diego Lopez has not fought 5 rounds prior to this fight. So Diego Lopez coming into this fight, he's all like, okay, his confidence booster was going up. Like, okay, I belong here. And I'm going to give it my all. And I feel like Alex still did enough to win that round. But going into the fourth round, I feel like this was Diego's best round. Diego went in there. He started throwing punches, started doing what he had to do, throwing kicks. He's like, okay. Diego just went in there, like, let it all out. And he did pretty good in this round. I feel like he won. I think this is the only round he won, if I'm being completely honest. And again, experience factor coming into the 5th round. Alexander Volkanovski just went in there, slugged it out with Diego. Guys went mano a mano, just banged it out, like throw punches and bunches. Obviously, I feel like I said, Alexander Volkanovski was being smart about it, though. He wasn't throwing cautious to the wind. He was going in there, being smart about it, and yeah. Going into the 5th round being over, when the judges announced the winner, I was confident Volkanovski won. I mean, Diego probably thought he did enough to win. I don't think Diego won the second round. I'm sorry. I don't. Third round, I still think Alexander did enough to win. 4th round, I give Diego the 4th round because I think it was probably the best round that he had. But I think, again, Alexander Volkanovski did everything in this fight to win. He showed that experience won this fight. He went 15 rounds with Max Holloway. He went 5 rounds with Brian Ortega. He went 3 rounds with Yair Rodriguez, before he stopped it. He stopped Yair in the 3rd round. He stopped Korean Zombie in the 4th round. Prior to him, fighting for the UFC belt, he beats Jose Aldo in a 3rd round fight. There's not much things I can say about Alexander Volkanovski. And he went 5 rounds with Islam too, the first time they fought prior. Not the second fight, but the first time. Alexander Volkanovski just adds another name to his resume. He's a 2-time featherweight champion. He has 7 title fights in the UFC featherweight division. He's 1 title fight away from tying Jose Aldo. He has a total of 5 title defense. Jose Aldo has 7. I'm going to be honest right here. I'm going to say here at TWT Talks with Tito, if Alexander Volkanovski gets 2 more title shots, I'm putting him over Jose Aldo. Yes, he's going to be tied with 7 title defense, but I have to put Alexander Volkanovski over. as the greatest featherweight to ever do it. I still think Jose Aldo's the greatest featherweight right now, but I feel like if he gets two more title title defense, I'm gonna put Jose Aldo. I'm gonna put Alexander Volkanovski over him. And if Volkanovski gets a 3 title defense and makes it 8 over Jose Aldo's 7, there's no denying it there. But yeah, I really liked Alexander Volkanovski's in this fight. He fought a dangerous fighter in Diego Lopez, because we know Diego Lopez, in my opinion, was the rising star of 2024. And he beat him, and yeah, this was a good win for him, a good name for his resume. Even the losses that he had against Ilia Topuria and Islam, Alexander Volkanovski has fought the best featherweights in the world, and fought the best current lightweight in the world. That shows you how great this guy is, a future Hall of Famer. I'm excited for Volkanovski being champion, because when Volkanovski was champion, he was probably one of the most active champions in the UFC. So I'm very excited that he's champion now again. And I'm excited to see him probably face Maslov. That's going to be a good fight, because I think Maslov is a dangerous fighter, undefeated. He's undefeated from a fighter from Russia. We know how the fighters that come from that region, they're very dangerous. They're very hungry. So I'm excited to see that fight. Hopefully that fight's next for Alexander Volkanovski. As far as Diego Lopez, this is a tough loss for him, because he was never put in a situation where he fought 5 rounds, and he did a great job going against arguably one of the greatest featherweight of all times, which is Alexander Volkanovski. Diego Lopez is, in my opinion, gonna fight for the belt again. I think he is. I think Diego Lopez is probably 1 win away, and he'll get another title shot. Who do I want Diego Lopez to fight? Well, we did mention Yarid Rodriguez earlier, right? We did mention that Yarid Rodriguez wants to get a title shot. Well, Yarid, this is the fight that will take you to the title shot. Diego Lopez, Yarid Rodriguez, Noche UFC, and Mexico. Why not? We have 2 Mexican fighters. Well, Diego Lopez is from Brazil, but he lives in Puebla, Mexico. So he technically, he represents Mexico too. So we have 2 warriors fighting in Mexico. Make that main event, make that 5 rounds. The winner will get a title shot. Why not? Make it happen, UFC. If you guys need any more help with matchmaking, I'm your guy. But yeah, that is my take on UFC 114. What do you guys thought of it? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys like it? I like the event. Miami hosted UFC 314. This is the Miami's their 3rd event in a row hosting it. Prior to years of not hosting UFC events, Miami's a rad, hot place to host UFC events. And man, it was awesome to see that. A lot of big names were there. Mommy Rhea Ripley was there, by the way, with her husband, Buddy Murphy. So a few other big stars. Obviously, the UFC fighters were there. So yeah. Also, Amanda Nunes did get inducted in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to her. She deserves it. 2-division women's champion, arguably the greatest women MMA fighter of all time. But she is thinking about coming out of retirement. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison has been announced for UFC 317. Yeah, 317. So that fight's going to happen. I want to say it's 317. Let me double check, because yeah, I think it's UFC 317. So that fight's going to happen, and I feel like the winner of that fight is going to face... Oh no, UFC 316. I apologize. They're going to fight at UFC 316. See, I had a feeling I had it wrong. And yeah, I'm excited for that fight. Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena. I'm super excited for that fight. Obviously, the rematch between Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. That's another good one right there. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And congrats to Amanda Nunes on being inducted in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, WrestleMania 41, night 1, night 2. Next week, post WrestleMania 41, night 1 and night 2. And if I'm excited for that. I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to see it too. I'm so excited for that. There's a lot to talk about as far as WrestleMania goes, but we'll leave that to the next week's episode. I wanted to do UFC 314, post UFC 314, because MMA fans, I have not forgot about you. I have not forgot about you 1 second. With that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for today's episode. Remember, we drop episodes every week. And if we don't drop them every week, we are consistent with them. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Subscribe if you can. Or you should subscribe. What? Just do yourself a favor and subscribe. Subscribe on the Spotify. Follow the TWT Talks page on Instagram. Follow us. Just follow us. You won't regret it. But yeah, with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for today's episode. This is Tito Madrano. This is TWT Talks with Tito. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.